Hey everybody! For all of our newcomers, thank you very much for coming, and for all of our teachers and non-newcomers, thank you very much for being here anyway. Appreciate it. So tonight is going to be our Persona, Heraldry, and Garb class, and I am really excited for y'all to get to meet people who are talking about it tonight because they're all very good at what they talk about, and they are all very, very experienced at it. So we're going to leave questions and all of that stuff till the end, but for the time being, let's get started on our class tonight. I am Tuathal. I'm currently chairing the Newcomers Academy. Catalina unfortunately had some life stuff come up and had to step down for now, but that's okay. We've still got it covered. And our teachers, we have Bash, we have Drika, and we have Sigrun. Everybody raise your hands.
Escarlata.
Oh, and Escarlata. All right, and then we have Baroness Colfina over here.
Hello. I'm going to be running the camera tonight. Just so everybody is aware, I have one microphone here, and then that little skewer sticking out has the other one, so that we can get your nice, pretty voices.
All right, and had y'all decided who you wanted to go first, or am I going with who I want to go first? Let's start with Persona. Bash.
So that's me. As it has been said, I'm Vash. I am actually fairly new to the SCA. I've been in just a little over a year, about a year and a half at this point. However, I'm really, really passionate about things like persona and like finding your place in history, that kind of thing. So I'm going to go over the very, very basics. And if you have any further questions, please come talk to me about it. I love talking about personas. So first of all, what is your persona? Like, why do you need it? In the SCA, we use the phrase, like, your persona to refer to kind of the mental space that you step into when you come into the SCA. I'm no longer James Eiserhart, 25-year-old something. I am Vazoly Barthorij, 14th century Hungarian noble. And that kind of gives me a framework for the things I want to research, the areas I want to research, the garb I want to make, the heraldry that I like, that kind of thing. I will say that's something that a lot of newcomers tend to get caught up on is, oh, I have to find a time and place, and I have to stick to that time and place. That is not the case. I am Vash. I'm 14th century Hungarian. I have an alternate persona floating around in my head that is Valens, who is 15th century Italian. I have another that is like 2nd century Roman. And I dress kind of in anything and everything I can get my hands on. It is not a rigid thing. You can be whoever you want. You can time travel. Like I said, it really is just a starting point. It's somewhere to jump from and find other things you're interested in. So the main thing that people kind of get stuck on is, how do I figure out where and when? And there are a lot of ways that you can do it. If you already have some kind of special like interest in a certain period or a certain place, starting to look into those can be a really good way to, let me find my niche of like, oh, well, I find this portion of this place's history really interesting, but not this other portion, so let me narrow it down from there. And this can be culture, this can be like politics, this can be military history, anything. Or you can be like me, and mine was completely arbitrary. I was like, I like the last name Bathory because Countess Bathory is a very fun historical figure. And what do I want to do for my first name? Well, I have a D&D character named Vazoly. Good enough. And eventually that turned into Vash. And that's the other thing to know, is that it's not going to be static like that. And it may be that you end up with a nickname. It may be that the name that you choose, the place that you choose, doesn't really come across. And nobody knows how to pronounce your name. And so it ends up getting shortened to Vash. Something to keep in mind is, once you find your place, regardless of whether it's somewhere you have an interest, somewhere a friend has an interest, just randomly chosen like mine was, more or less, which I love it. I'm obsessed. So, worked out pretty well for me. Something to keep in mind is, you aren't the only person who's going to be seeing your name, who's going to be seeing your clothing. People are going to ask questions, how's your name pronounced, etc., etc. You have to be okay with it being mispronounced. My name is spelled Vazoly. I get Vazoly a lot. I'm not Vazoly, I'm Vazoly. But I have to be okay with that. And I know quite a few people actually who ended up with nicknames, cough cough, Fifi, full name Theodore, that you just kind of have to learn to survive with. But it's all in good fun. The fun part for me is getting to think really hard about it and be like, okay, so I'm a fighter. I'm in this time, I'm in this place. Who would I have been fighting? What sort of effect would that have had on me? What sort of effect would that have had on the culture around me? However, you definitely do not have to go that in depth. I know a lot of people, and you will see a lot of people who are like, yep, I'm 12th century Norman. Do not ask me any further questions. I'm 12th century Norman. And that's fine. Because your persona is your business, and you get to decide how invested you want to be in that, or if you want to just be 12th century Norman and be like, I don't care about that, I want to hit people with sticks, or I want to learn how to make fabric, or I want to learn how to dye things. I don't care about any of the character things. We're not a LARP. It's a LARP.
We're a LARP.
We're a LARP.
It's not a debate here. We're a
I'm
LARP.
afraid of it.
But we have the joy of getting to choose how much we actually want to learn. I know quite a few people whose names are just modifications of their mundane names. A lot of people choose jokes as their name. For example, out of Stargate, Houston, there's Escarlata the Furious. That's a pretty. We get pretty funny with it. Heraldry also, you'll see get pretty funny, and that's kind of connected into the name. I know a lot of people who play with puns on their heraldry. Yeah, we basically range from the dawn of time until right about 1600, and there's a little bit of wiggle room there. However, we try and keep it in that range just because it gives us a definitive end date, and it is more or less seen as the period. However, if anybody tries to persona police you, please tell somebody that you know and trust so that they can tell them to shut their crap, for lack of a better way to phrase that.
What does persona police mean?
Pardon?
What does persona police mean?
Oh, okay. So persona police is basically exactly what it sounds like. That is not a technical term. That is just me. But persona police is going to be anyone who's like, oh, well, you're wearing the wrong period for the period that you said, or oh, well, that's actually slightly post-period, and you should feel bad about it.
You're wearing pink. I don't think that color was around about it.
Right. Oh, well, that color's out of period, etc., etc.
It doesn't happen all that much, but it does
But
happen.
it does happen.
And let people know that it's happening so that we can be like, hey, stop it.
Because we are doing everything we can to stop that kind of conversation. Because you play when you can, how you can, with what you can, and you get to do the research, and you get to have your persona, and you get to choose the color of fabric.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact about pink, there is a Norse sign that's a coat, crossbody coat, that has, this was researched and proven, faux fur trim that was hot pink. Yes, like Vikings, hot pink fur trim on his coat.
If someone
So,
ever challenges
That's
you
a
on
fun
something
fact
like
about pink.
sequins, I got your research on sequins. I can date those back to King Tut's tomb. So, like, sequins are old.
Don't let anybody garb shame you.
It's another garb, but it's interesting garb shame you if you series of names and say, oh, so-and-so would like for you to talk to them about my garb. All of our names. We'll have a long conversation.
We've all got your back we were all newcomers at one point. Nobody is born into this world knowing all of this, and sometimes people who have been in for a long time tend to forget that. And as somebody who is newer, that's something I have experience with. So please, if y'all ever have any questions, or if anyone's ever a jerk about, oh, well, you're wearing the wrong color for our period, whatever, feel free to come and let me know. Because I am still there. I wear a lot of black. I wear a lot of black on black on black, just not period, even a little bit. So like, I'll fight anyone. I'll fight anyone. I don't care. I think that's about it. Any further suggestions from the peanut gallery?
I have a resource on our Bryn Gwlad website on the, I think about the Herald's opposite page. There's actually, I think Sigrun put this together a while back, like a how do I develop my persona kind of questions you can read through and kind of help prompt you through the process.
So I actually had handouts that I was going to hand out, but my printer beefed it. So if you were interested at all in stuff on a handout that's like, here's some of the cultures that you see most often in the SCA, and here's, you know, some of the major like military history, here's some of the major like myths and heroes, here's the basic rundown of that culture in our period. I have that. I have little worksheets for like, all right, here's my persona. Where do I want to start? What do I think about this? What do I think about this? I have all sorts of stuff. So please reach out to me. I love talking about this. My printer. So I do not have them with me.
So one thing I'll say, there's a lot of ways to develop your persona, and Bash touched on this, but like, it can be anything that creates your persona. It could be, just like you said, the clothes you like to wear, but literally it could just be like, man, I really, really, really like the color blue, and the French were all about it. It could be anything.
Literally anything. No, I ended up with Hungary because I was like, Countess Bathory. And I was like, oh wait, I can literally take that as the last name. Done. That was it. That was all it took. Something kind of in conjunction with that is the fact that when you meet new people, especially when you're new, and you get to know them, and you're both trying to figure out your persona at the same time, something that's really, really fun is getting to work your little stories together. So a friend of mine, our little persona stories are kind of interwoven with the history between like Byzantium and Hungary and Wallachia and all of that, which keeps it interesting, keeps it fresh. So that is also something I highly recommend.
Is that on your wiki page?
No, but it should be. If you once you come to the persona thing, make a wiki page. We can help you set everything up. It's just a little Google form. It'll make everybody very happy, and then people can be like, "Who was that?" Ah, I see.
Oh, and personas are not in a vacuum, by the way. So say you really like an Irish name, but you really want to be an Italian persona. Hi, that's me actually. Because as it turns out, merchants went all over the place, and they had kids all over the place, and they named their kids in those places. There was an entire enclave of Irish merchants living in Tuscany who had a castle and were kind of pirates and privateers. And lived there their whole lives. They raised their children there. They named their children Irish names, but they were all Italian. Some of them even ran fencing schools. So like, just because you really like this name and you want it all the same century, but over here, guess what? People did that in the Middle Ages and Renaissance all the time. That's fine.
I know you said questions at the end, but I'm gonna ask anyways. Any questions? Just right off the bat.
I'm curious for other people. Did you generally start with the time, a place, or name? People that have been in for a while.
I started with a name. My maiden name is Kira, Kira, and my family is from Norway, so I've always kind of gravitated toward Norse Vikings, and I was like, is there a name similar to Kira in that culture? And then I kind of filled it out from there.
Right, you Sigrun. Right, you Sigrun. Very Viking.
What was your first persona name, Sigrun?
My first persona name was Desiree Falcon, and I was from Britain. And around the time of the when the Normans came over, and I did that for a couple years, and I fought under that name. And then I started doing some research into my family heritage, and I found out that I'm actually Swedish.
Oh.
And we came from Stockholm. And so I started researching Stockholm and found out that it was Birka and about the Birken merchant area. And that's when I actually created my persona. And Ivar Runamagi, Baron in Bjornsburg, had a naming ceremony, and he named me. And I had nothing to do with it. He named me Sigrun I Birka. And so I've been Sigrun I Birka ever since. And Birka is actually where Stockholm is. And it was a trading port, a very busy trading port from the 800s to the 900s. And so my persona story is that I was in Birka, and that I was an orphan, and that I worked in the trading district. And because of that, when I made enough money, I was able to do a lot of traveling. And so a lot of the garb that I wear has a Slavic influence because I traveled up in that area. It's a Viking influence. I've got Oriental influence. I literally can wear anything I want, thanks. So yeah, so that's my origin story.
And Sigrun does bring up a good point in that you started with a different persona and then came about to Sigrun eventually. I know a lot of people who made a persona and then years and years and years down the line, they were like, nah, something else, let's do something else.
So now Desiree is my alt, and I have a Spanish Italian.
Escarlata, what about you?
All right, so I started in the SCA 20 years ago. So when I started, I actually didn't have a name for like 5 years. And then I came up with a first name, and it was Viking, and I was like, whatever. So I was Katala for a while. And then I moved here, and I got involved with a theater troupe that did a bunch of Elizabethan style theater. And I got really into late period costuming and stuff. And so I came up with Escarlata, who is late period Spanish, 1500s. And kind of the area, Granada, Spain, has a lot of the Moorish influences. It's got some really exciting costuming influences. And so really, I kind of worked it backwards because I do cooking. And I got interested in Al-Andalus, which is a period cooking manuscript. And so then I kind of created my persona that way. But just like everybody else, your persona can come from anything that you like. And also, and this is something that's probably going to astound most of the people here. So I go by Escarlata. Escarlata is a nickname. Escarlata is not a period name. It's a period name for a color, the scarlet red color, kind of like the seat back here, that was used on a type of fabric. So when they were from the old world, they used a type of bark that was grown in the area of Spain that I'm from. When they reached the New World, they got coconal beetles. They were able to use that to create the same kind of brilliant red color. So because of where my family's from and because of the nature of how we're highborn, I'm used to wearing a lot of stuff I wear is red. So it's a nickname because of the fabric that I generally wear. So if you have a name that you really, really want and you can't necessarily do the, bend over backwards and up, down, and around, no one was ever technically called this name, but that can still be your nickname. And I have a long, very proper Spanish name as well. But Escarlata is easy, it's unique, and it's something that people already know me as. So, and you can call yourself whatever you want until you come up with a name and you actually bother to register it. So try names on. It's perfectly fine. I also have an alternate persona. So I'm non-binary. So is my persona, actually. And so there's actually period people who were not strictly gender binary. So I have a lot of those in history. If you look at my wiki, I actually write about it a little bit. And so part of my persona is based on that period. There's 2 different people in Spain. There's other people that are in different parts of the world. And so there's an alternative persona where she presents as her twin brother, Sebastian. And so for the noble class, she's able to run the family business, do ship trading, do many things that feminine peoples wouldn't be allowed to do as this alternative persona, but her entire family knows this is just her in male clothing. So that's something that you can also express and play out with your persona as well. So you can have a lot of fun with persona play.
So clearly we get really, really into it. I'm sure that all of us can talk about this for literally forever. I did not go into it, Phil did not go into it. I'm certain that we have a lot we can say. However, we do have 2 other classes that need to be done. And I talked briefly about like names, heraldry, that kind of thing. And it's all kind of tied together. So on that note, Sigrun, if you would like to talk about the heraldry portion of things, I would very much appreciate it. Please come talk to me about persona things. I love it.
Hello. We're going to talk a little bit about heraldry. Please don't be afraid. Do not run screaming from the room. It's not that bad. So just like, great segue, just like we were talking about names and how you can have a nickname and you can find a culture and everything else. When you have done this and you have carried a name for forever, and then you decide on a culture and you want to submit a name, you will go to a herald. Each branch has a local herald. This is Bryn Gwlad's local herald. And then the local herald will help you get your information together, and then they send it to the Kingdom Herald, Submissions Herald, who is the asterisk, which is me right now. And of course, there are various sundry heralds at large. We have heralds at large. Heralds at large. Heralds at large are people that actually do heraldry. They just don't belong to an office. They are warranted and they can help you as well. So you can find somebody you're comfortable with to help you with your heraldry. Now, when you choose a name, my biggest suggestion is don't jump right in, pick a name, and let's submit that puppy. Let's just start calling me this, and then we're going to do the research, and we're going to put the paperwork in, and we're going to do that. Because I did that with Desiree. And I carried Desiree for 4 years. And I mean, she's cool. She's still an alternate persona, but she just didn't feed my soul the way my Viking persona does. And I do have various other alternatives, and you can do that as well. It doesn't matter. You can have as many as you want. Well, you can have 8. But you can get rid of them too. You can just release them when you're done with them if you don't want to use them anymore. So my biggest suggestion is that when you're brand new, you pick a name that you like, and you start calling yourself that of Bryn Gwlad, or whatever group that you're from. That of Bryn Gwlad is perfectly acceptable. Do you have a question?
Well, I just want to say, I'm an officer. I've been in for a year and a half. I do all the things ever all the time. My name is not registered. My heraldry is not registered. This is what everybody calls me. I don't plan on doing it anytime soon. I don't feel that it's necessary. So, like, you can go forever without doing it.
The only time that it's pertinent that you get your name and your device registered is if you plan on fighting in crown tourney. Now, there are 2 ways, well, almost 2 ways to fight in crown tourney. You can be a heavy chivalric fighter, and soon, in Onstair, I hope, there will be chances for you to fight for crown as a rapier or a cut and thrust fighter. They haven't worked out the details of that yet, but other kingdoms are already doing it. So it's going to happen. So that's the only time that you have to have a name and a device registered, is if you plan on holding the position of king or sovereign or consort, because we're changing that too, because we want to go to a more non-binary term. Now, used to be that you had to pick a name, and it had to be male or female, because of the fact that we're looking in onomastics, old school history, and back in the day, doesn't mean there weren't non-binary names, and it doesn't mean there weren't non-binary people. It just meant that historically it wasn't written down like that. So you had to choose whether your name was going to be female or male, and that decided whether the documentation you found was correct or not. We don't do that. When you put in your name and your device, I don't think I have a name sheet, I just have a advice sheet. But there's a little box in there that says gender of name. We never ask for a gender because it's not our business. But it will say gender of name. And there's a box there that says non-binary, and there's another one that says don't care. I love the don't care box because the don't care means that we're going to do everything we can to make that name possible for you, regardless of whose name it was in the past. The big thing too, also to remember before you try to register your name, and this is the last big thing you have to remember, is that you can't pick a fantasy name. Like Bosch was telling you, you can't say, I want this name, this was my D&D character, or I read a story in a book and this name was in there. Or I watched a sci-fi show and this name was in there and I really like it. Because in order to register a name, it has to be historically documented that somebody used that name in history, and it was documented on a roll of precedents, on a bank sheet, on a property document, or something like that. Yes, exactly. Religious tablets, anything like that. It has to be a certifiable, documented name. Or, caveat to that is, it has to be created in a way that that culture created names. And then if you can prove that the elements were elements that were found historically in that time period, and you created that name in that way, you can do that. But it's all very technical, and it's all crazy.
Do I have to do this alone? Is there somebody that can help me with that kind of thing?
Absolutely, there's somebody who can help you with that, and that is where your herald steps in. You, yourself, do not have to know all about how to find that research or do that research. You just take what you have with you to that herald, and that herald's going to help you do that homework. And if that herald gets stuck, that herald's going to reach out to somebody on the submissions, which would be the border, me, or the arborist. And then they will help you with that. There's so much help to be had. It's crazy. So,
are there resources that people can go to get ideas for this?
there are so many resources, and I hasten to just put them out there because y'all are never going to remember those, but your herald has them and I have them. So if you really want those links, I have shortcuts and links to everything. And the College of Heralds has a huge website. Yes, College of Heralds website has all of that information for you as well. So now that I've given you a headache about the names, it's fine. Find a name, find a nickname. We'll work out the rest, honestly. Just try not to have it be too way far out there, like made up, because then you'll end up with a nickname, and then you'll have a technical name that we can cast. So now the other part of it, the fun part, is your device. Now, they say heraldry started in and about the 13th or 12th century, right about the time the Norman Conquest happened, and right about the time that they started doing the tournament fighting. And the reason why they started creating a specific type of heraldry for that was because they would host these tournaments, and the crown would be up in their stand, and all of the people would be watching, and then the knights and the fighters would come out on horseback or in their armor, and they would be in armor from head to toe, and most of the time their little face beavers, what are they called? Beavers. I don't pronounce it right. I call it a beaver. It's not a beaver. It's beaver. So those things pop down over their face, and you can't see them. And so the royalty and the crown had no way of discerning one fighter from another. And this upset them because then somebody would win, and well, I think it's kind of surprising, they pull their helm off and yahoo! Surprise, it's me. But the crown didn't like that. They wanted to know who they were cheering for. They wanted to know who was doing the good fighting and who wasn't. And so they asked them to put something on their armor that would separate them from the other fighters. And so they created a cape that had their shield design on it and their colors. And when they came out on horseback to parade around so that they could, do their honor to the crown, it had their device on it, and they called this their coat of arms. Y'all with me? So that's why we call them a coat of arms in the mundane world, because that's where it came from. And then, of course, it went from there, and we have coats of arms for everything that historically in Europe. And all of the countries have them, and they post them everywhere. So I did a little bit of research, and I'm actually giving a class with Escarlata at Serpent's Service Symposium next weekend. And I gave the class once during COVID, and the class is called The Art of Heraldic Display. And I did a little bit of research, and I went all the way back to BC, and I didn't document a lot of the Cleopatra area in Egypt, but I can tell you that they had heraldic display at that time. I actually deep dived into the Picts and the Romans in 1 to 200 and moved all the way forward, and there was heraldic display out there. All a heraldic display is a device that tells us who you are. Tells us everything about you on that device. A device is a shield shape like this, okay? And this is where you put your design. I know y'all have seen the family crests and all of that, but if you make a design and you register it, that's you. That's nobody else. It's not your family. It's not your husband and you, or your wife and you, or your child and you. This is you, and it means you. So when you come up with a device that's yours, you pick colors, you pick a charge, which is whatever the design is you want to put on there. And then we submit that, and we pass it, and it becomes yours. And it cannot conflict with anybody else in the SCA. So it has to be uniquely you. We also make sure that it does not conflict with anybody historically that is alive today or part of the English culture, the European culture, the French, the Italians, that is like a royal family or something like that. We make sure it doesn't conflict with them. And so one of the things that we do is we have specific colors. There are 8 of them. You'll notice that there's not gray, and there's not brown, and there's not orange, and there's not pink. There are only these colors, and they are yellow, red, blue, green, purple, and black. And then, of course, we have heraldic names for them. But these are the only colors that you can use in your device. There are also furs. I don't think I have a picture of the furs. But there are furs, and it gets very detailed, and there's all kinds of things, and there's different field divisions, and it gets very complicated. But the first thing to think about is that you have a shield design and you have a color. My suggestion to you, again, is not to make any decisions quickly. Don't rush out there. You can pick a color that you prefer now. You can. And if there's a charge that you like, you can think about that. But don't think about anything else. Just think about the color that you like. And it can become part of you and your persona even before you have a name. And when you decide you want to nail it down and talk about more detailed information than you get with your herald, or you get with a herald at large, or you get with the asterisk. The asterisk is always available. The email is asterisk@onsteora.org.
And that's spelled out. It's not
@herald.onsteora.org. Sorry, I misspelled my own email. And
It's available on the Kingdom website as well if you want to remember that.
And you can contact that person at any time of just send an email, whatever. Or you can message me. A charge is
Question is, what's a charge?
An item or an animal or what? It's something. Whatever you decide. It's a cloud. It could be a cloud. It could be a dog. It could be a cat. It could be a lion.
Rainbow.
It could be a rainbow. The only thing we do is we look to make sure that it was something that was used medievally. And guess what? Just about everything you can. The only thing that you have to think about is when you draw. When you do your drawing, don't be disappointed if it gets redrawn by the College of Herald. Because you might pick out something like this. But you might find this in a book, okay? And this is a nice, we've got a we've got a unicorn, and we've got looks like a hog or a boar. And that looks fabulous, doesn't it? And if you were to get your boar registered on your device, you could by all means paint it like this. But you can't submit it like this because this is not heraldically correct to submit. Doesn't mean you can't paint it like that. You just can't submit it like that.
Your herald or the heralds at large will have
They will know that.
resources that they can be like, here, look through this thing. It has a bunch of different versions of the herald.
There's a website if you want to write this down, and it's called
Traceable heraldic art, right?
yeah, Traceable Heraldic Art.
Love it.
Everything on there is acceptable heraldically as drawn. That's why it's there. Those are the heraldic charges. There's another one called List Home Pictorial Dictionary. And again, everything on it is a heraldic charge. Now, you might find a spoon and you might say, but I don't really like this spoon. I don't really want this spoon on my device or on my badge. But this is the spoon you're going to get. But when you redraw your spoon, it's a spoon. You can redraw that spoon to look exactly like you like. It's called artistic license, and you are allowed to do that on your device. Just heraldically, it has to look like this spoon. Okay? And there's all kinds of other things. Yeah. So there's a lot. There's ordinaries. Ordinaries are the charges that are placed on the field. These are the things like when you have your device or your if you have your device or your badge, the ordinaries show whether. Thank you. Show whether you have a line of division. It might be a pale, which is 2 lines straight down, or you might have a bend this way, or you might have a bend, it's the separations. Then there are subordinaries, and the subordinaries are if you have a tierce. A tierce is like having a line way off to the side. Tierce would be if you have a line way off to the side. So it looks like you have a little space right over here that's different. Instead of having it cut down the middle, you got it over here on the side. That's called a tierce. A pale is when you have the lines down the middle, or just down the middle. And then you can have insulter, that's a line that goes across. So there's all kinds of those. And guess what? On heraldic art, traceable heraldic art, there is an area where it has these. You can click on it and say, what is an ordinary? And it goes through every one of them. What is a subordinary? And then, of course, it has the furs. It has all the furs on there. So that is absolutely your friend. This is a badge sheet. You can have a badge. Now, you can only have a device or a badge if you have a name registered or if you're registering it at the same time. You cannot just submit a badge.
What's the difference between a badge and a device?
A badge. Thank you very much for that. Remember, I said on a device, it means you. It's just you. It's just all about you. Well, a device can mean a household or a group. You get it passed in your name or in a household name, but then you can put that on everything you own and say, okay, this is all mine. Oh, I've got a little archery team and we all go do archery and we all help each other. And so guess what? We all belong together. So I'm going to make an archery badge and then everybody's going to get one of those. And it means we all belong together. So a device means just you. It's just you. It's just all about you. And a badge can mean everything. It's your friends. It's your household. It's your family. It's, it's your stuff. You can put it on all your stuff. Yeah, I have a badge for my archery stuff. That all of my archery stuff falls under that badge. All of my colors are under that badge color. My household colors or my device colors are different.
I know someone who has badges for their kids. Be
Yes.
like, this one is mine.
That's right. Badges for the kids. And it's good because if people get to know those badges and they get to know those colors, if they see something and it's got that on it, they go, oh, look, this is Sigrun. I need to go take that to her. It's laying out here in the field. likely. It's likely to happen. So, the only other thing that I have to tell you,
So can you have multiple badges?
yes, you can have up to 8. You can only have one device. And after that, you can have 8 badges. That's your limit. One of the things that I do want to mention is that when you decide to start creating a device or a badge, either one of those, you do a pencil drawing, draw it with a marker in black and white, and then put it on your refrigerator or you put it on the furthest wall in your house, down the hallway or whatever. Because a badge should be recognizable at distance. Because when you're fighting on the field and it's on your shield, nobody's going to be up close to it. They're all going to be at a distance. And you need to be cautious about what you put on your device, of what you will see from a distance. For instance, this is a beautiful device. Okay, it's a square. I had somebody submit one of these. They wanted to have it, and it was beautiful, and they drew it in such a great way. And I had pulled it up on my computer because I was trying to create a digital of it. And so I had it pulled up on my computer, and I walked away. And then as I walked back into the room, I looked at it. And it kind of looked like the female reproductive system. Not gonna lie. And from a distance, the way they had it colored, it totally looked like the female reproductive system. So, I mean, if that's okay for people to know you for that, by all means do it. But be cautious of what you're drawing, because sometimes what you're drawing is not anything like what it will look like at 50 yards. So make sure you look at that. So the big takeaway is there is a lot of information here. There are a lot of websites to help you. There are a lot of people to help you. Please don't be intimidated by any of it. Don't let anybody push you into pick a name. No, you can go by your first name. Sarah can go as Sarah of Bryn Gwlad. I know a lot of people that do that for a while until they find a name, and then you can easily transition into your name. So don't let anybody force you. Don't let anybody say you have to have a name. Just wait until you find one you like. Go for a first name first, then you can go for a second name. You can have a name like Tuathal that is not even close to your persona, because when we register them, we don't even care what your persona is. We don't care what culture you come from. The only thing we look at is that name. That name has to be, your first name and last name have to be within 500 to 300 years of each other, depending on what cultures you're from. And they have to be of a specific culture that would either know each other or in a specific culture. So the names have to match, but they do not have to match your persona at all. So you've got that. So just have fun. When you decide to find a name, wear it for a while, talk to some people, find yourself a herald. You know, Bosch is wonderful. Bosch will help you at all points. So just reach out at any time and have fun with it. And the same with your device. Just start coloring, start drawing, have a little fun with it, make up a device, make up a badge, and then just go with it. And then talk to Bosch when you're ready, but just don't rush in there. Have fun with it first. So the next thing we're going to go to is Garb. Garb. So that's going to be Drika and Escarlata.
Are we both doing this? Yeah.
Okay, you do yours first.
I think mine works better first because it's not specific. It's about Garb. Like, what are we talking about? I think a lot of people got a little bit psyched out. They're like, gosh, I can't go to an event without Garb, or I need to do something and it's a little overwhelming. So let's just put a framework around this and talk about what it is. I do have a lovely slideshow. I believe it is already available on the Newcomer site. We don't have a projector here, so I'm just going to walk through this. If you want to look at it, the pictures are really grim. This is not printed out well. So if you want to see the pictures on this, I can pass this around afterwards. If you want to see this, just check them out online. Okay, so welcome to the Garb Party class. My name is Drika. I'm the principal of the Clothiers Guild. And I want to talk a little bit about defining garb. It is everything that you wear. So your clothes, your shoes, your accessories, your outerwear, your hat, all of it is your garb. And what SCA requests for garb is very minimal. It's very daunting. The technical thing that's requested is when you are attending an event that requires garb, you make an attempt. And that is it. An attempt. Make an attempt. People talk about a 6-foot rule, a 10-foot rule. People talk about being in period and all this kind of stuff. That is not written down. An attempt. We do not want garb to be a barrier to your participation in the SCA. We want you to come on down and enjoy the events. All you need is an attempt. It's very simple. One way to think about it is, if you're like, okay, just an attempt, but what kind of attempt do I need to make with this? What would someone wear if they were from a specific time in a specific place? And that can help you just focus on kind of what you want to do. And you can get as specific as you want to be, or you can say something like, what would someone wear if they were like knights and ladies in medieval Europe? That's a time, medieval period, that's hundreds of years long, but it's a period. And it's a really big place, but it's a place. That may be enough for you to get your idea about what you want to do for your attempt. But don't restrict yourself to medieval and Renaissance Europe. Remember that SCA is broad. It goes all the way back into like recorded history. It goes all around the world. There used to be limits on the earliest time periods. There used to be limits on locations. Those are all now gone. Again, if you hear you're not supposed to do something that early period, you're not supposed to do something that's Mesoamerica or something, wrong. It's now completely open. Okay. What is not garb? Generally speaking, like we were talking about with names that come from, they need to be in history. We also do not have certain things that you'll often see at things like renfaire. So fantasy elements like fairy wings and elf ears, vampire teeth, fictional things like Hogwarts uniforms or Jedi outfits, or things that are post-period, that 1600 time limit we talked about, like steampunk and pirates that, again, you could go earlier period with the pirates to get it in period, but a lot of what people think about as pirate is getting well into the 1700s. So again, like an attempt. I have seen people perfectly happily welcomed into SCA events wearing an absolute 100% renfaire outfit with these elements. But that's not what we're looking for because historical reenactment. So again, make your attempt.
Hey Drika,
Yes.
what if I have glasses, or if I want to wear sunglasses, or if I have a cane, or any sort of modern something that'll make my life easier? Am I going to get weird looks?
Yes, this is a really good question because some people have just absolutely requirements. Like, because of my advanced diabetes, I gotta wear these shoes. But some people are also like, I'm fighting and I don't want to slip and I want to wear shoes with rubber soles, right? So if you can have requirements for various reasons, from like absolutely must-have medical necessities to just like functional necessities.
I have rheumatoid arthritis, very severe. And so I wear sandals in the summertime that are comfortable for my feet. And in the wintertime, I can't wear tight shoes. So I wear Crocs. Seriously, I wear Crocs under my boots. I buy the ones that kind of sort of look like a medieval shoe would look. I have some that have black and white fur on them. I call them my Viking Crocs. I wear them with my Viking gear. But I absolutely wear Crocs, and I used to be very nervous and worried about wearing them because they're Crocs and everybody recognizes them as Crocs until one day I was walking next to the fighting field and our then king Cook came walking off of the field and was, and he looked down at my feet and he said, "Oh, I love your Crocs. Then he stuck out his leg and he was wearing Crocs. And he says, I have to wear these when I'm finished fighting because fighting hurts my feet. And I thought, you know what? If the king of Unstillor can wear Crocs, be damned, I'll wear them everywhere else. So yeah.
Right, and if I can pick up on something you said, you're kind of looking for Crocs that kind of like might look like historical shoes. You don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
If you have like your, like my mom had this like metallic striped purple cane that she needed to take everywhere, bring it. Like, again, Garb should not be a barrier to participation in the SCA. We want y'all to come on down.
And if anybody gives you trouble with it, tell someone. Find somebody you trust. Find somebody with a pointy hat. Find one of us. Please say something because that's not cool. Another thing, I've also never had any issues with people giving me problems about the piercings or the tattoos or the colored hair. None of very, very clearly modern stuff. Nobody cares. Right? Nobody cares.
I spent months on a knee scooter last year, and not one person was like, well, I don't really think you should have a knee scooter at an event. Period. I did have the very excellent suggestion of having like a little stuffed horse on the front of it, making it look like a chariot, which was very fun.
So one of our biggest SCA events is Penzic. It's 2 weeks long, and there's lots and lots of information about it. But they will often have a competition for folks with mobility aids, wheelchairs, walkers, whatever, to like decorate them in period styles. And so you'll have weird wheelchairs that have been decked out to be a horse with barding, and they have a jousting spear. It's so cool. Anyway, so folks have fun with it. Not a requirement, but it's really entertaining.
That is true. That is true. I also want to call out there are some things in the SCA that have a special meaning. We refer to pointy hats. There are certain types of things that people wear that are actually not just Garb. They're kind of an additional significance. So crowns, circlets with points, the white belts that signify knights. There are belts of different colors, yellow, red, and green, that signify the student-teacher relationship. And also, I mean, it sounds like, oh, I need to be a little worried about these things. Don't be too worried about these things. SCA as an organization has a very small number of restricted items compared to other types of reenactment groups.
I cannot emphasize enough because this is one that does happen occasionally. If you are wearing a belt or something and somebody is like, what are you doing? You can't do that, or if it says anything snippy, please tell someone because we want to nip that in the bud. That is something that does happen.
Kokora law, I can tell you, under Kokora law, the only thing that you cannot wear is a crown with certain numbers of points and things like that. You can wear a white belt. It is set aside for a night. That does not mean that you are excluded from wearing a white belt with your Garb.
Please tell
You
us.
can wear a red belt, you can wear a green belt, and you can wear a yellow belt. And if anybody tells you otherwise, you send them to me because I know the law.
I have seen
You can wear them, but if someone asks you, oh, you're wearing a white belt, are you a knight? You say, no, I just have on a white belt.
Yeah.
And you're fine.
And there may be people that ask you, what kingdom are you a knight with, or whatever, and all you have to say is, I'm sorry, it matches my body. This is just a regular belt, it is not a knight. Or this is just a regular yellow belt, or a regular green belt, and that's all you have to say. Because those items are not protected in any way under our laws.
And if you do have questions about like, well, can I wear this thing on my head? It's kind of like a circlet, but it has this thing. It is spelled out. You can go look it up. And you can also just ask people who have knowledge of all those details and say, is this something I can wear? Or does it, because as we said, that is the one restriction. Okay, so when do you actually need Garb? No, we are not wearing Garb. So, not all things that the SCA does require Garb. So generally speaking, when you need Garb is when you're at an SCA event, which may be indoors, outdoors, it may include overnight camping. You might go to a war, which is a larger scale, multi-day event. And also, if you are volunteering in an SCA demo as a demo person, it's great to be wearing Garb to show this is what we do. A lot of times, though, you don't need to wear Garb. if you are at populace meetings, if you are at martial practices, if you are at guild meetings, Newcomers Academy, if you are at Barony work days, all of those types of events, you're welcome to wear garb. That's not expected. Okay, so we're talking all about this very conceptually. What kind of garb do I want? And I would say, think about what you do in the SCA. You are pursuing some kind of activity, maybe exploring a few. Entourage, archery, taking arts and sciences classes, feast. Your garb should help you out to do those things. So just think a little bit about what would work well for what you're pursuing. If you want to be like, I am going to bling out and be an entourage, you might wear very different stuff when you're like, I'm going to pursue archery hard, I want to get really good at this. You might end up wearing different stuff. So just think about being comfortable and being able to pursue and enjoy your activities. Another thing is your persona. You're into your persona, your time and your place, your profession, your family business, your liking for travel. What kind of things would a person with your background be wearing? Because as we know, we're all wearing different stuff here. We're all Americans in this time and place. You express yourself in your personality, and you also wear things that are appropriate for work contexts, business, getting dressed up and going out. So just think about your persona and the range of things they would have in their closet. You can also participate in themed events or join groups that have themes that relate to garb. A lot of folks in Bjornsburg like their Viking clothing. There's a really strong presence there. It might be fun just to wear Viking garb to a Bjornsburg event. We had a big anniversary for Bryn Gwlad, and it was Roman themed, and a lot of people just, without any Roman garb, paid Roman garb just for the fun of enjoying the theme of the event. Not required, but it may be exciting and fun to go and do something. Mostly though, I want to say, you should be thinking about garb that expresses yourself, enables you to live the dream. If you want to show up and be like super fancy, do that thing. If you want to show up and you want to work really hard to do setup and clean up, you want to do whatever you want to do, knock yourself out and live your dream with your garb. Okay, so if you want to go to an event and you don't have garb, oh, sorry, go ahead. What do you do to get garb quick?
I know. Ask the shadowling. You ask the shadowling.
Ask the shadowling.
for if we have anything in our gold key supply.
What's a chatelaine?
What's gold key?
I think that might be a different Newcomers Academy, but quickly.
Yeah.
Yes, we do have Gold Key, which is clothing that is owned by the Barony and loaned out to people who need garb. We also have this at events if you're like, I would really like to bring my roommates. I would really like to bring my mom and dad. I really like to bring whatever. We can give them their attempt and bring them on in.
But if Gold Key doesn't have my sizes, where do I go then?
Well, I actually recommend, if you have a little bit of lead time, is to hit up your friends, especially ones who are similar in the type of garb that you want to wear, and you see them in it, you can borrow stuff from them. This is a really fast way to get garb. Most people have more garb than they're going to be wearing at that event. And if you have friends, they can just quickly give it to you without having to go through the process of going to the Gold Key looking. You might get a faster thing, yes.
If you're at an event and you are like, man, I don't have garb and I need some now, and you don't know what to look for, this is what we mean when we say a gold key. This is the gold key on a green background of the Office of the Chatelaine. Also, find the Kingdom Chatelaine. So if you can't find the Chatelaine and you're like, where are they? Hopefully I should be able to find them if they're on site, because I'll know who they are. We can find you gold key. We can make sure you get an outfit on. And if you're going to an event and there won't be gold key there, sometimes smaller events don't have it, smaller groups might not have some. Tell us ahead of time. Tell me ahead of time. I have so many extra clothes, so many that don't fit me anymore or never fit me, but were given to me not for gold key, just years ago for no reason. I will put you in clothes. I might send you home with them to get them out of my house.
And on that note, so I'm like dirt broke. So this is something that really concerned me. Is Garb? It looks expensive. It's time expensive. Not everybody has the money or the time. There are so many people in the SCA who will just force their clothes on you, like, please get it out of my life. I think that 90% of my clothes have probably come from Twill or people that Twill knows. Because I can't sew, don't have the money for fabric, and just don't have the time for any of it. And people are like, please, I will never wear these again. Please take them away. So, like, don't let not having the money or the time stop you. Just knock out a single basic, like, pin 2 sheets together and then get to know people, because people can help you. Even if they're not just giving things away, you can be like, how do I do this?
I can help you make a chitin in under 5 minutes.
Legitimately.
That is very easy. So my final suggestion is, if you have a really, like, I really need Garb quick. I'm about to go to Gulf Wars. I made one outfit. I'm going to be there for a week. Throw yourself upon the mercy of the barony and just tell people you need help. Because you will find people will give you, loan you, do things like that. We're a community, and we want to get you out and enjoying the events.
Where can I post that?
What?
Where can I post a call out for help?
And on Facebook and Baronial group,
Or the Discord.
Baronial Discord, or if you're also on Facebook, there is a Baronial gifting group that is a free cycle for Baronial stuff. If you're not on it, you should be. People put up Garb, camping gear, all kinds of stuff, but they can't stow unless they're on there.
If you are not comfortable asking for help in a public setting, you can also reach out to any of us and be like, hey, I need help finding Garb. Do you know anyone who might have something tomorrow? Because I know social anxiety is definitely a thing. You are welcome to reach out to us, or if you make friends with people who have been in the SCA for a while,
And if you want your own and you want to make it and you don't want to borrow someone's garb, most of us here have the knowledge, skills, or connections to help you do that.
And that's our next slide, actually.
If somebody isn't a friend of yours on Facebook, become a member of the Bryn Gwlad Facebook, and you can just go on there and you can just say, hey, Sigrun, can you DM me? Yeah. Or, hey, Drika, can you DM me? You can go on the Clothiers Guild and ask for, hey, just can you contact me? And then somebody will contact you for sure.
Okay. Okay, you've got Garb quick. You solved the immediate solution, but how do you get Garb of your own? So there's a few different ways to do this. First of all, you can use something that you already own as Garb. It's surprisingly difficult to find things that work effectively as historical clothing, but there are some things. For instance, this is a cotton linen pair of pants from Old Navy. These make really good, like, biking pants. You put a little Winnegots on them, or just wear them as pants. This lovely elastic waist would be hidden by a tunic, and, you know, it's comfortable and lightweight for the heat. So there are some things that you can just use. And again, like, look around at what people are wearing and doing and get some ideas about this. You can also just buy Garb.
They're always 50 cents.
I've seen Dukes in flannel pajamas.
Flannel pajamas.
I wasn't going to mention it out loud, but thank you. Yes, that's true. The other thing you can do is you can buy Garb. There are places that sell it. The other thing you can do is you can sew it, and I'll go through those in a little bit. Okay, so I did actually have a picture of things you can wear as Garb. Like your shoes, you've probably got shoes you can wear for Garb. You can use like regular belts with buckles as Garb. I showed those linen pants. People will wear often clothes from India, which are still considered traditional Indian clothing. Many of those fabrics, not all fabrics and things are actually authentic to period, but the idea of wearing saris, dhotis, and tunics goes way back. You can also buy the Garb. I have a little list of vendors. First of all, you can go go to events that are large enough to have vendors and look through stuff on the rack and buy stuff. You can also order things online, and I have a little list here. There's an SCA market release Facebook group that used to be great. Don't know if it's still around. Historic Enterprises, Neverland Designs, Linen Garb, Boots by Beaumont for footwear, and Dominica's Fine Fashion on Etsy. This again is all in that slideshow. And you can also look for used garb to buy. We have a Facebook SCA group, SCA Yard Sale Facebook group, the Bryn Gwlad gifting group, and also dstash.us. Again, all of these are written down in that presentation. For sewing garb, as Phil mentioned, you can go out and do this on your own. Many people show up at the SCA being like, I am already a customer. I just need to figure out what to make. That's great. But if you don't have skills, you can pursue that on your own. We can give you resources, or you can come to crafting nights and other types of like populace and things like that. Or sometimes your friends will be like, come over, I'm going to show you how that sewing machine works at my house. No, so you can also do it on a just personal level, but you can also do it by reaching out to more formal groups like the Clothiers Guild. We do an online Clothiers Guild, and I'm also trying to make it to the populace meetings. And so if it's in the woods, you have kids, it's very tough for you to get out, we have the online one. If you want to get there in person, we have multiple crafting nights that are happening north and south. Those are great places to go and get hands-on help.
And also right now, if you're wanting to learn about sewing, we are working on war tablets. That is a perfect place for you to go. You'll learn how to iron, you'll learn how to pick fabric, you'll learn how to applique, and you'll learn how to sew straight lines, which is basically what you need to do basic period garb. So, and it's free, basically free sewing lessons for you. So there's a reason that.
The last thing I want to mention is that some people will make garb for you. You specifically work with them about what you want and you commission it. So it's another way that you can buy garb is to get it custom made for you. Okay. I think that was pretty much all I had. I have some links here for our Discord. We have a clothing channel there. Our Facebook group, Bryn Gwlad Clothiers Guild. We have that monthly online meeting. It's on our calendar. Yeah, that was the end of the presentation. Other things. Escarlata.
Yeah, like really the things I was going to talk about is we first got started, it can be really intimidating. Sure, a little further away.
Sorry. So when you first get started, it can be really intimidating. So one of the things I want to talk about is different resources that we have, not necessarily online, but just in the Austin area, that can be really useful to you when you're trying to make your first garb, or you're trying to make it on your own. So for starters, ACR is like the most amazing resource, Austin Creative Reuse. It is a great place to get awesome types of fabric, either for mock-up or for actually using for-period garb. They have leather, they have all the trim that you could ever imagine. And I go like every other week, at least once a week, and check everything out and see what I can find. It's also great if you're doing stuff that's not necessarily garb, but if you want to do, you're learning fabric arts or other fiber arts, other things. So you can get stuff from ACR. It's also perfectly legit, like we said with scrub pants, it's also perfectly legit for you to use this interesting part of a thrift store that you've never probably looked at before, linens. Bed sheets. They're wonderful. They're these big pieces of fabric that you haven't thought about before. And the good news is you're smaller than a queen size bed. So you can use a queen size bed sheet to be able to literally cut your stuff out. And so I actually have a piece I'll show you guys in a second that is zipply out. So they have like these big flowy sleeves, and the person that made it literally got 2 queen size bed sheets and they laid down on the ground and they put their arms out and they had someone just draw the generalized shape of the dress and they sewed it. And that was their very first garb. And they wore it for years, and I have it to show you guys. And it is better than a normal, just perfect attempt. There's also simplistic designs you can use with just, if you get a bed sheet, just taking different things. So if you get a flannel bed sheet, you can do Iron Age Celtic. And so I have an example of one of those as well. Also, checking out, especially if you're doing late period stuff, a different section that you haven't thought of, and that would be curtains, draperies. It is an amazing place for you to get large amounts of silk, large amounts of fabric that you hadn't thought about before and reuse them in new exciting ways. This week, I was on my way back from court, and I stopped at the Williams-Sonoma outlet, and I bought not only a table runner to cut up to make Viking out of, but I also they had these really high-end napkins, and they were perfect. They were linen, and they had this really nice lace on the edge to make ruffs and cuffs. And the whole set was $20, and I can make 2 cuffs and a ruff out of $20. It's amazing. And like just being able to get that lace would be way more expensive. So sometimes you just have to think about things in a different way when you're thrifting or when you're trying to make garb, and you can take stuff that you already have and just be able to use it in a different and more artistic way to turn it into something that really works for you. Gosh.
Upholstery fabric as well.
Yes, upholstery
There are
fabric
upholstery places that go out of business
all the time.
You can get I have 8 yards of this lovely jacquard something or other that I got for $5 because it was upholstery fabric. You just buy upholstery fabric.
And so that's another thing. 6 yards will make pretty much anything. You can make an Elizabethan dress out of 6 yards. If you want to just make it on the top or the bottom, you need 4. So anything that's smaller than that, it becomes a little bit more nuanced. But if you can get at least 4 yards of something, grab it. You can use it to make something. If you want to make a giant dress, 6 yards is kind of your magic number, just so that you know if you haven't sewn before.
And let's be real with light bulbs. You can work on 2 or 3 yards. If you have a skilled person who knows what they're doing, we can help you get a lot more distance out of smaller yardage
than you think.
The very first event that I went to, I had just came back from England. My sister invited me. It was going to be in 2 days. And so I went through my mother's linen closet and I got a set of sheets out. It was twin sheets. They didn't use them anymore. And I said, what kind of dress do I make? And she said, I don't know, something like Maid Marian would wear. So I looked in a book and they had these big hanging sleeves. And so I just did the outline like she said, and I made this dress with these long sleeves. And I wore it to the event and it was very simple. I got such a good rapport from people that were like, oh, your garb is great. I wore that garb for about 6 years. I added to it. I added lining into the sleeves and lining at the neck, and then I added trim to it and all these things. And I literally wore it for 6 years until it just wore out. And I made it out of a set of sheets. So don't feel like, oh no, I don't want to do that or I can't do that, and don't feel uncomfortable wearing it because it's good stuff.
And don't underestimate cotton. Everyone taught linen will last longer and it breathes well, but if you're starting and you don't have a lot of money, cotton is completely legit, perfectly period. You're not going to die.
Linen sheets.
Yes, if you can find them.
Linen sheets were trendy, and then the fitted sheets wear out, and the flat sheets
They're still around. Yeah. And so that's another thing. When you're wearing clothes, one thing to think about when you're looking at fabrics is to try to find natural fibers. And the reason I say that is because I love you. It is 100 million degrees outside, and I don't want you to die of heat stroke because you got polyester that was $1 cheaper, and you didn't know that it wasn't going to breathe. So, seriously.
We do indoor events.
Yes, for an indoor event, polyester's fine.
Curtain that's 100% polyester with that beautiful, repeating, very period-looking pomegranate pattern. Just wear it to an indoor event so you don't die.
It's your core garb for an indoor event. And there's a time and place.
On that one,
yeah.
I love silks. Silks are beautiful. They look great. You can make some amazing embroidered designs on them. I have this glorious, very beautiful embroidered silk coat. I tried to wear it outside, and it was only 80 degrees, and I thought I was going to die in that stupid coat. I love it. It's beautiful. Wear those things inside. There's a time and a place for the pretty fabrics, the thicker fabrics, the things that don't breathe. Wearing it in the winter when it's 40 outside, I think it's a warm summer's day. It's beautiful. So it's important to yes, there are fabrics that look beautiful, and you either need to be prepared to suffer because you're wearing them, or maybe just wear them indoors.
Place. But yeah, so I'm pretty much done. Afterwards,
Show and tell.
I do have a show and tell in the bag. So afterwards, if you guys want to come look, I'll show you the different pieces that I have, and I can talk to you about picking, when you're going through fabrics and you're touching them, what a natural fiber feels like, and some simplistic designs. And I have all those here for you guys to look at.
So as mentioned at the beginning, I'm the Baroness of Bryn Gwlad. Our Baron, Horatio, spent a very, very long time researching all of the intricacies of burn tests. You can basically use, this is going to sound kind of weird if you're not familiar with it, but you can set your fabric on fire and figure out what sort of material it's made out of. Generally, you do like a little small piece. You don't set the whole thing on fire. But he has done like little walkthroughs like at the house to kind of show people how to do that. And then once before we actually did like a field trip, you mentioned ACR, to like walk people around and say, let's pet the fabric and learn what things feel like. So if folks are interested, that's something we can try to do again, because it's super fun to learn about this stuff. I love it.
All right, so this one, all right, this could be your very basic thing. You can wear it in summer, it's 100 million degrees. This cost me less than $10. This is 2 Turkish towels, and I just cut sleeves on them. That's it. And I sewed it together. I cut a neckline. That's it. This is a 10-minute dress. I made 3 of them for Pentic. Everyone was jealous that I had them. Because since they're made out of towels, they whip moisture really well. So these are wonderful for when it's 100 million degrees outside. Or as a shower gel. But $10.
The great thing about tunics and things like that, you cut it a little shorter and it's a little bit more masked.
Yep.
Gender is fast and loose in medieval clothing compared to modern
It really is. A lot
If
of
you
the
have
clothing
questions
is-
about that, I love to talk about it.
So this is one of my favorite pieces. We did a gold key kind of de-stash, and Vash and I picked this one out. So this is my gender non-binary pride tunic. So this one is actually made out of cotton. I love it. And whoever had it, it wasn't quite big enough, so they added about 4 inches, which is putting a strip of slightly different fabric down the sides.
But they put trim on it to be like, I'm meant to do that.
Yeah, this is totally supposed to be here. I put trim on it, and it kind of matches, so we're all good. And I literally put a belt on it, and it's Roman, or wear it like this. It kind of doesn't matter.
Flowers are the best.
And we all wear Roman in the summertime because
It's 100 degrees outside.
You'll see a lot of
Roman
Romans in the
wear.
summer.
So yeah, this one was free because I got it when we did a gold TV stash. So absolutely
Shorts
free.
and period too.
They are. All right, this one. So my stepdad is Indian, and my mom had. Oh, sorry. So upside down again. My mom had this one in the closet. So this is a salwar. So that just means it's a long cotton tunic. And all the stamping, all the cool stuff that looks entirely period on it, it came that way. And so this was free. It just came out of mom's closet. And I have had this thing legitimately 20 years. I wore it to answer in 30th year. Actually, it's my first event with it. And I washed it, I've abused it, and it looks exactly the same. It's exactly the same, and is exactly the same.
You can find stuff like that and like saris and such as at Goodwill sometimes.
All the time.
And also there are a bunch of Indian markets around here. Just kind of Austin in general.
If you guys didn't know, there are a bunch of Indian markets around here. And also, if there's enough interest, you can buy saris in bulk, buy like a large poundage lot. And so they send them, you get random ones, and then you can kind of pull from that.
They are dirt cheap.
And they are
I also
absolutely cheap.
have like 10 or so because I did a bulk order that I still have, and I'm like happy to give to people if you want.
I have a couple that I can also give away.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one of
Like
my
ask folks before you buy.
Yeah.
You can often
I'm gonna
save a lot of
put
money.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this is one of the very first dresses I ever made. This is actually before I learned how to do a rolled hem, so there is no hem on the bottom of this dress. I don't even care. But I learned how to do the neck yoke doing this one. So this is just thin fabric. This is a kirtle or underdress that you'd wear under other stuff. I still wear this all the time under my super fancy clothing because it doesn't matter. It's just literally keeping me from sweating on the next one. All right. So it doesn't have to be complicated. On this one,
I have a bunch of masculine stuff that are all tunics, but they look slightly different.
yeah, go ahead. Okay.
So one thing I want to point out is that if you are learning to sew, you don't have to learn a lot in order to be able to deliver different kinds of looks. Like this, so this is a shirt that would go under things, very basic. No, there's no collar, there are no cuffs. This is just hem. There's the fastest kind of shirt to make. Okay, you can get fancy with shirts, and you can do things like ruffles and cuffs and little buttons and things like that. You do not have to. You can make a very basic shirt. This does not even have like a little slit here. It just pulls over the head. This is a great, like, really basic shirt to wear. So what do you wear on top of it? now you take that same pattern and then you make a really basic. This is like appropriate for all kinds of basic medieval guy kind of wear.
Yep.
Okay? It's got a little slit up the side for use in rapier threading, just to make sure it doesn't tear. It has extra fabric on the sides, again, to give you that ease to cut. Then we have similar idea. We're going to go Roman, because who needs pants when it's hot? Nobody. So this is a tunic. It is now much longer, so that you can wear it as a Roman dude. You can also say, but wait, that yours were again, if you're talking about looking like Norse, again, it's another tunic. This is long, like the Roman. Notice it has a little extra here. It's more of a skirt type of look, appropriate for those Norse. And it's got a facing around the neck, which is kind of decorative and simple, and on the top.
A lot of Eastern European clothing is also the exact same shape. Yes, it's so easy. Most of the clothes are going to be just rectangles, and maybe you'll add some little triangles in there sometimes.
If you're looking at anything before the Renaissance,
It's
almost
rectangles
everything was
and it's rectangles. All right, so this one looks like an amazing,
I love that.
fabulous wood, right? Except look at it sideways. This is a rectangle and this is two triangles. Two squares. Yeah, it's literally just squares.
Can I make
Well,
an
you better watch your
interesting
back.
statement about this?
Yes.
So the person who was found wearing this hood was completely dressed, and it is still unknown whether that person is male or female.
Yeah, because clothing was so unique back then. And so I actually got this one made by the other, her persona, Colfina, Colfina of the North.
Did you make that?
No, Northina did.
The other cool.
Eagle's daughters. But if you guys want to learn how to make these, I had a lot of interest. I was at Penzic and I thought everyone was going to die. I can also show you how to make this. It's actually not that difficult. And because I'm awesome, it also
What?
Yeah. So it flips inside out and it becomes a Bryn Gwlad heraldic tunic. And so this one again, it's more simplistic, so you can definitely see that it's just rectangle, two triangles. So anything you're gonna get that's Norse is literally rectangles or tubes. So let's talk about tubes again really quick. Woo, tubes! Yes, more tubes. Alright, so this one is gonna be a log dress. So it's literally just a piece of fabric, you fold it over on itself. Oop. It's never ending. Yeah. I caught it like sideways. There we go. So this goes over the shoulders. And so this is your Irish Celtic. The main thing that makes this obvious as to what it is it's just a tube, right? Everything's tubes. This particular one folds over in the front, and you can tell by the fabric where the person is from. So you can literally make this dress in a different fabric, and it's a kite. It's the same tube, everybody. It's the same tube.
And some things Titans only actually require two seams. The top can be done with safety pins. Like
Literally.
they're so easy.
I have like these are
Got enough
buttons. You
fabric,
can
you
use
don't
some
even need
safety
those two
pins.
seams.
Speaking of safety pins,
Or if you're Greek,
Round 1.5.
speaking of Greeks and safety pins, so here is the tube, and then this is the part that goes over. The thing that makes this fancy, because otherwise it's literally just a piece of fabric, I use some sari embellishments from one of those old saris we were talking about. And so it makes you look like you're a fancy lady, or man in this case. Finally, I told you guys I was going to show you the layout that is made out of sheets. Look at this thing. This was literally made out of sheets over a decade ago, and still looks awesome.
Rectangles, triangles.
Yeah.
so cute.
Pretty
That's
much.
what I made out of the sheet.
Yeah. And so, like, literally anyone can do this. This person literally laid on Christmas wrapping paper, like 3 sheets of Christmas wrapping paper, and their mom outlined this. And that's how this is made. So, if you want to learn all these tricks and more, just come ask anybody. Come to Costumers Guild, come ask around. And all this stuff is in my closet. So, if you need clothes, I've got clothes. I promise. Alright, any other questions about Garb? I think we've covered a lot. Oh, one other place. This is cast off Garb. All right, and I want to mention this because this is again like a thought of reuse. So this person is going to throw this garb away because it has bleach stains right here, and it's missing some buttons. All right, first of all, this button is where your belt is, so no one's going to notice. You can move this button from the bottom to right here, so you're covering that spot. And then I'm just going to make a V of fabric, which is entirely period, on both sides, and cover the bleach stains. And then someone can wear this again. And everything is great. So, also think creative when you've got someone that's like, oh, I don't know about this garb, it's damaged. It may be really easy to fix. Or make it cool. Yes?
Can I ask more about that piece? Because I love the buttons, and I want to know more about like the time period or time.
So this one is a middle class, lower class Tudor jerkin. So this is just a doublet. And it's pretty basic. The person that got this was actually their fencing garb, so it's double ply on the linen. So if you touch it, that's what it's gonna feel like.
Yeah, and you can see similar sorts of constructions. It's kind of vest or doublet with peplums. There's a lot of variations on it, like German, Italian has kind of a different style of it, some French, and then like Elizabethan has a very specific high-waisted style.
Yep. The waist will be further up here.
And so there's a lot of kind of cultural and geographic variations that kind of fit the same vibe, which is fun.
Basically, this can fit in a lot of cultures in like a 300-year span.
Yeah.
And depending on what you turn with, maybe further.
I would recommend looking at the Elizabethan costume Facebook group. They're not SCA specific. There's a lot of folks in there doing like serious heavy duty renfaire costuming, big Tudor dresses and things. But they also have great doublets on there. They also do have masculine garments.
Yes. And if you're interested in Elizabethan, the next crown is going to be Elizabethan, and that is my costume time period. So come talk to me afterwards, and we have things we can talk about. Yeah. Otherwise, I think we're good.
Oh, there's one other point I wanted to make, and that is just that I don't know if you're familiar with any other historical reenactment groups. There's no obligation in the SCA to like start humble as like peasant clowns. The SCA, everyone is assumed you are nobility. You wear what the heck you want to wear. You do not have to work yourself up to wearing a fancy garb. If you want to be fancy, go for it. Do not wait. Do not think, what is it too early? It is not too early. There's no restriction on like status of garb. And I just want to say some groups do have that. SCA does not.
Any other final words or announcements before I stop the recording?
Questions?
Yeah, questions.
Any of us? No? That's good? Yeah.
Should I just ask this because I feel like it's kind of relevant across several interests and people that overlap with like renfaire and SCA? Like, can I just like ask a general question of like overlapping the garb in those spaces and like best practices and thoughts?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So first, especially if you're coming to your first couple SCA events, wear what you got. Please do not think that we are asking you, oh, it's your first event or you've been in a year and you need to make a tea tunic or garb or something. If you've been going to rent fairs, dress down the magical elf ears or the big pirate hat, wear the garb. Nobody at an SCA event is going to be like, oh my gosh, did you see there's a pirate here? No, not one person. Yeah, it's fine. So that's great.
We wear corsets and we wear big.
Yes, we have people in corsets, we have people in skirts.
We wear robe gear. We wear all the.
And there are a lot of ways that we can take those bits of renfaire garb, and there are pieces of that we can say, hey, this is a great accessory. It's totally period. We're going to pair it with this other thing, and bam, here's new garb, right? And that's easy to do. And I've helped a lot of people do that over the years. I've done it myself over the years.
A lot of us came from like the rent fair sort of thing. You'll meet a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, I used to work at PRF or I used to work at Sherwood. And so just about everybody just like, oh, we gotcha.
Yeah. Accessorizing helps a lot. That's another point on garb. Whether you're talking like jewelry or just trim or some little thing, a simple accessory can take you from feeling like I'm just in a tea tunic and make it feel like something else. And we've got a lot of people in the Barony. Coquina does wire weaving. I do jewelry and beadwork. It's very easy to help you with very little or no money make something that can make a piece of garb feel more complete.
As Carlotta mentioned, the thing with like, yes, this is the exact same thing, just with a different fabric. It reads as a completely different period. You can also do the exact same thing with the exact same fabric and just use your accessories to change your location or your period. Like I mentioned with the Norse like thing and Eastern European clothing, it's all very much the same shape. Eastern European clothing tends to be split down the middle. But between the different areas of Eastern Europe, it all basically looks the same, except you can add a little accessory here and there. I tend to wear like Ottoman accessories because Hungary had a lot of interaction with like that area. But if I were Polish, if I were Estonian, Latvian, I would probably lean something more towards like the Kiev and Rus for accessories and things. Completely changes the vibe. Same basic.
We also have people, not specifically in our Barony, but in closer groups that we're in contact with that know a lot about Mesoamerican culture and their garb and things like that. We also have a lady that lives in the Shadowlands, which is College Station, that her whole degrees in life is about Asian and Japanese culture, and that's a new area for the SCA, and people are jumping in with both feet on that. So we can get you back up and help on that as well. So don't be afraid to jump out there and say, oh, I don't want to be Eurocentric. I don't want to be in medieval Europe. I want to be in Australia, or I want to be in the Americas or Canada or whatever. We can find people that can help.
And if you have like a particular, like, yes, I have this piece of renfaire garb or whatever that like I would like to continue to wear, you can also find people who know things, like the people in the Clothiers Guild, and be like, I have this piece, what can I do to modify it or add to it that will make it period for like what area? Because they know things about things.
Garb also doesn't have to be totally serious all the time.
Yeah.
So like, we think of garb as like, oh, and this is my thing and I wear it to court, but there's plenty of garb that we don't wear to court to the fancy stuff. At Gulf Wars, there is literally a Lunge Connect booty shorts night.
Yeah.
First, Lunge Connect booty shorts, period. But Lunge Connect booty shorts where someone took the cod piece and made it Cthulhu, not period. However, it's fun, okay? And nobody is going to be like, well, I don't know, you're going around in Lunge Connect booty shorts with a Cthulhu head on it. They're going to go, that's awesome, right?
Last year, we all decided that we needed to support the LGBTQIA+ community. And so we all started making rainbow garb. Is it a period? Not really. Did we do it? Heck yeah, we did.
Why we're all
wear it
unified.
everywhere. Yes, we did. Are we still wearing it? Yes, we are. And so, yeah, there's that.
We keep
So-
it silly.
Do not think you have to be serious. Do not think I want to wear shorts and shorts on period. We talked earlier about naming, but this applies to garb. There is a famous thing in historian communities called the Tiffany problem. Most of us think of Tiffany as a modern name. And if someone goes into an anachronistic group or reads through a history book and they see the name Tiffany there, they're like, well, that's clearly fake. This is historical fiction. That's not true. The name Tiffany goes back to ancient Greece. It's really freaking old. However, as modern people, we tend to go, Tiffany means new things, right? But we do the same thing with garb and colors and trim. And the more I learn about the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, and before, and I'm a classical archaeologist, I know a lot about history. And like I said earlier, recently I learned sequins are totally period. They've been around for 3,000 years, right? It's the Tiffany problem. I'm a modern person. I saw this thing I perceived as modern, and so I was like, oh, that's a modern thing. And so often, when we hear garb policing in the SCA, it's someone who thinks that something doesn't feel period. That's not even necessarily true all the time. So just because you get this thing in your head and I'm like, man, I really wish I could do that, do it. Research it. It might be a thing. Maybe no one bothered looking into it. And that's the important thing here. Have fun and do what you want. So I know we've been here a while and we're over our time. I really wanted to say thank you for everyone who came. We'll get up all the information for the next Newcomers Academy class soon. And then in the fall, we're going to have our baronial event. That is November the 15th? 15th.
Right.
And I hope all of you can come to that. There are going to be a lot of events coming up in the fall. That does not have to be your first event. If you want to come out to an event and you're like, man, this sounds fun, let's go do it, post on the Discord, post on the Facebook, talk to one of us here, talk to us at a pip. We'll get you out there. You don't have to be authorized to fight. You don't have to have perfect garb. There is nothing required other than your desire to go. We will help you get there. If it's camping, we'll help you figure out camping equipment if you don't have it. We want to enable you to be able to do this.
We are solidly enablers. If you need anything, if there is anything we can do to make you more into this, we will do it.
Yeah.
Like I said, basically, like all of my armor, all of my garb, pretty much all of it is just given to me because people are like, "Oh, you want to do the thing? Here, do the thing." I stumbled into this at the Sherwood demo not the past year, but the year before. And since then, it has been nothing but people being like, "Oh, you want to do the thing? Here, have all the resources, have all the materials."
And if you want to make clothes before your first event, please come see me. I have too much fabric.
Tents, food, like transportation places. I've had people pay for like event fees or like site like in fees and stuff because I'm broke and I can't afford it. If there's anything we can do to get you to do the thing, absolutely. Carpooling, camping together, whatever you need, we've got your back.
Thank you all for coming.